Good afternoon, students. Do you hear me?
Yes, Doctor, clear.
Yes, doctor.
Today we will discuss teaching reading. Let us see what we have here in this activity, or how can we teach it. Teaching reading in many second for foreign language teaching situations. Reading receives a special focus. There are a number of reasons for this here. We have here first, many foreign language students often have reading as one of their most important goals. They want to be able to read for information and pleasure, for their career, and for study purposes. In fact, in most EFL situations, the ability here, the ability to read in foreign language is all the student of ever want to acquire. Second, written text serve various pedagogical purposes. Also, we have here Grave critically examines the relationship between what? Between research and practice in both LA and L2 reading. He points out that the relationship between research and instruction in the language reading context is quite straightforward. Language on reading instruction has to large extent been influenced by research what findings. For example, language one reading teachers are now aware of the importance of developing letter sound correspondence for early reading, the need for large vocabulary for fluent reading, the need for students to become effective strategy users, also the value of extensive what reading and the usefulness of content-based instruction. Also, we have here the benefits of developing reasonable reading rates. Also, the importance of explicit teacher modeling in reading what? Instruction. Also, Johnson attempts to shed light on the practical issues of what? Of translating what? Findings in reading strategy research into the classroom. She's concerned with the two questions. How do we go about teaching reading strategies? We should know that, or what are these, or how can we use them in what? In teaching what? In teaching reading. So here, how do we incorporate reading strategies in an ongoing classroom reading what program? Also drawing on relevant research finding. So we have here following characteristics or sound that John's suggests that a sound approach to strategy instruction should have the following word characteristics. One, the teaching of strategies is contextualized. Strategies are taught explicitly through direct explanation, modeling, and what? And feedback. Also, there is a constant recycling of strategies over new texts and tasks. Also, strategies are taught over a long period of what? Of time. And also, she then describes how this approach to strategy instruction can be successfully implemented in one ESL classroom. Also, Rinandia and Jacobs argue strongly for including extensive reading in the second language what curriculum. Also, we have here a question you should do them. This is general question before reading means depending on what? On your previous information or previous knowledge. Like, what are some of the differences between good readers and poor readers, for example? And you should do them. Also, we have here after reading, what we will do after reading. After reading, for example, I mean after reading this lecture, review the article by Rinandia and Jacobs and like that. Let us move to another part of our lecture today. We have here dilemmas for developing of second language reading abilities. Dilemmas, it means what? It means difficulties. It means difficulties here. And we have 9 difficulties here. We will state them uh, during this lecture or through this lecture. Since the 1990, a number of advances have been made in research on reading both in first and second language what context. Also, we have here a first language reading research and what and instruction. In first language here, in first language settings, research has demonstrated at least 10 major findings for reading instruction. These what? These will highlight them. Importance of developing letter sound correspondence for beginning reading. Importance of word recognition and the relatively complete processing of word in text. Also necessity for a large recognition vocabulary for fluent reading. Also need for reasonable reading rates for processing. Also, we have here a usefulness of graphic representations for comprehension and instruction. Also, we have here value of extensive reading. We have importance of dialogue and teacher modeling and comprehension what? Instruction. And facilitating role of content-based instruction. Need for students to become strategic readers. Influence of varying social context on the development of reading what abilities. Also, the research results impact strongly on reading instruction in various language one setting. Also, reading for comprehension is the primary purpose for reading, though this is sometimes overlooked when students are asked to read overly what difficult text. Rising students awareness of main ideas in a text and exploring the organization of a text are essential for good what comprehension. Also, we have here second language reading research and what and instruction. So we have here the research on second language reading has also provided a number of insights for reading development and instruction. They may different language to context, however, do not lead to exactly the same set of findings as those noted earlier for language to language one context. Research insights for language to reading development have informed at least the following 8 issues. The importance of discourse structures and graphic representations. The importance of vocabulary in language learning. The need for language awareness and attending to language and general what form we can say here. Also We have the need for existence of second language proficiency. There should there should in reading threshold in reading, the importance of metacognitive awareness and strategy what learning, also the need for extensive reading, the benefits of integrating reading and what and writing, the importance of content-based what instruction. So we have here dilemmas for second language reading instruction. It means difficulties. Dilemma number one, a most obvious dilemma for language to instruction is the many different contexts for language to what reading instruction. These dilemmas also represent an underlying cause for many other dilemmas what facing language to reading instruction. Also, number two, we have a second dilemmas for language to reading instruction derives from USA based generative linguistic foundation of most research in second language acquisition and the subsequent relevance of much of SLA for language to reading what research. Also, we have here dilemma 3, formal aspects of language and general structure contribute to readers developing comprehension and inferencing abilities. Also, dilemma 4, a large vocabulary is critical not only for reading but for all language to language skills, for academic abilities and for background what knowledge. We have number 5, dilemmas number 5, or the difficulty here. A further complication for a student in both language 1 and language 2 reading instruction situation is the social context of students' home environment strongly influences reading development. In particular, social classes differences do appear to have an indirect effect on reading what development. Also, we have here dilemma 6. We learn to read by reading a lot, yet reading a lot is not the emphasis of most reading curricula. Number 7, although it's important that language to student increase reading fluency. This is what we need. Develop a large recognition what vocabulary. Why? Because we deal with the reading and engage in extensive reading. These issues in themselves are not sufficient for reading what comprehension. 8, the uncritical acceptance of sigma theory represents a major dilemma for higher comprehension processes. Also, we have here dilemma 9. At some point in all students' academic careers, they must learn to make the transition from learning to read to reading to learn other what information. Also, we have here conclusions. The dilemmas presented in this article are intended to provoke discussion and, in some cases, lead to reconsideration of language to instructional practices. They can also be seen as important research agendas. When you like this is agendas or considerations, what these difficulties or these what dilemmas you should put in your mind when you deal with this activity. The 9 dilemmas, of course, not all of them, but most of them we can say. The 9 dilemmas do not represent the full set of dilemmas, as I said. That could be proposed. Indeed, a careful reading of this article will in all likelihood suggest additional dilemmas to inform research and what? And instruction. The dilemmas have a number of possible resolutions, and some have been noted, although the most interesting research to date is generally not directed to various language to reading contexts. The dilemmas also pointed out a number of implied political and social issues related to language to reading instruction, which need to be addressed, although for reasons of space such as discussion is not possible in this what article. So I hope that, or we hope that dilemmas post will open up some debates on the sorts of language to reading research that is needed, as well as open new possibilities for language to reading instruction. And this is, we have this article. We say article because this curriculum uh, collected from many sources will suggest additional dilemma. Yani we have another dilemma we can say, but most of them we stated here. Now we move to the last part of our lecture, which is what? Teaching reading, or teaching strategic reading. We have here implication. So here, how can we teach? Why? Because we deal with this activity, we should know a strategy. As we stated previously, we deal with two processes or two strategies, we can say top down and bottom up. This for reading. You should know that. So implications of reading strategy research for what? For teachers. Reading strategies can be defined as what? So what is meant by a strategy? A strategy, it is a plan, a plans. And how can we teach any activity without strategy? So strategy like a plan. Reading strategies can be defined as a plans for solving problems here. Solving a problem encountered in what? In constructing a meaning. This is what? This is a definition of what? Of strategy. Plans for solving problems encountered in constructing what? El meaning. Why el meaning? Because we deal with what? With the reading. In reading, we have meaning, we have vocabulary. So for this reason, we say what? We say el meaning, since we deal with the reading here. Here we have teaching reading, a comprehensive what? Approach. What is sometimes termed the transactional teaching approach to strategy instruction. Here, as we see here, what is sometimes termed the transactional teaching approach to strategy instruction has several characteristics that deserve what? Attention, or put it us in our mind. It is embedded in a content area so that students are learning strategy while they are engaged in their regular reading for variety of purposes. Strategies are taught through direct explanation, teacher modeling, and feedback. Also, strategies are constantly recycled over new text and tasks. And strategy use develops over long term. Why I say here use? Because noun we pronounce at use, but verb use. Strategy use develops over the long term. We have here one ESL classroom, how we approach group reading activities, how we can deal with them. I teach reading lab class, and any class, and since we deal with reading in an intensive university level English program, you will deal with, when you teach, you will deal with the intermediate or secondary schools or preparatory schools, or maybe if you want to complete your higher study, you will deal with college level or university level. The intensive program is designed to prepare students for mainstream study at either the graduate or the undergraduate level, as I told you. So we have here, because this reading class is oriented toward instruction, is one skill, it was not possible to embed strategy teaching entirely in content with instruction. The important thing here is what? Is how can we deal with the classroom processes, or what are these? Effective instruction in strategic reading entails number of classroom processes or movies. We have five here. Number one, general strategy discussion, teacher teacher modeling, student reading, analysis of strategies used by the teacher or by the student when thinking aloud. Also, explanation, discussion of individual strategies on a regular what? Basis. So let's state each one. What is the meaning of what of each one? General strategy discussion. What we have here. In general, strategy discussion, reading strategies and strategic reading are what? Are defined. The teacher explains and the class discusses why learning and practicing strategies are what important. The following 3 points are example of what I try to elicit from students. Strategies help to improve reading comprehension as well as efficiency in reading. By using strategies, students will be reading in the way that experts readers do. So, of course, this is important of strategies. And strategies help readers to process the text actively, to monitor their comprehension. Of course, how can we monitor that? How can we control that? By strategy. Why? Because strategy like a plan, and to connect what they are reading to their own knowledge and other parts of the text. Also, we have here teacher modeling. Teacher modeling, a second important feature of strategy instruction, is regular teacher modeling of experts' behavior. In doing this, I read aloud a short portion of the text. A portion, it means a part of the text, and also I think aloud. Think aloud here is the short expert from transcription. So teacher modeling, what I'll do in reading as a teacher, what I'll do in teaching this activity. Of course, I'll select a part from the text, for example, a passage. Then I'll read it aloud. Then I'll uh, explain vocabularies, give them time to read, and ask them about vocabularies, and like that, according to your plan. So what about the student reading? I also encourage students to read and think aloud. This is our aim here, to make students or encourage students to read and think aloud from the very beginning. Though I expect the familiarity with process will take what time. Of course, reading and thinking aloud presents a very high cognitive. This is what we need here to make it students, to encourage students to read and think what aloud. So, analysis of strategy use. After the student or I have read the portion of the text, we immediately analyze the strategy use of the reader through full class word discussion. What is meant by analysis? What did the reader do? And when did he or she do? What strategies did the reader use and like that? Like here we have this sample. This is what I already we have here what while reading to clarify ideas and like that. This is strategies for use that while reading or after reading. Why? To clarify ideas, to help. Why I use this? When and can use it while reading or after reading? What is the reason to clarify ideas? Here we have a strategy explanation and discussion. The process of strategy identification and feedback entails the naming of strategies and repeated explanations on the teachers or student parts as to how to use the strategies. So the explanation process can be facilitated by use of what? Of graphic organized, such as the one. By use of this according to the table here, we will see that. And in homework, we have what? We have strategy use is reinforced outside the classroom through two types of homework. In the first type, students finish reading the material that we have begun in class and respond to the various written prompts. Before finishing the chapter, and this is the first one. The first one type was student finish reading the material that you have begun in class and respond to the various written prompts. The second one here, and second one here in the second the type of homework student keep a track of the reading they do outside of a class for pleasure or for courses. This is what we have here. We have title, how to read student generate strategies. We have 20 pages evaluation, kind of evaluation. What is the strategy, scheme or skinning and like that. This is a plan or strategy, and strategy like a plan. What is the purpose? Encourage, give us instructions, also solving problems. Now we reach to the conclusion here. Let us see what we have here. I have used this approach and we pay attention that we use bottom up or top down with high intermediate level university student, but it's a rotation for student to any level of instruction. We don't care. This is depend on your way in teaching. It should be emphasized that transactional teaching, the basis for the modeling and scribe was originally designing for what? For elementary schools. We can say what here. In adapting instruction in strategic reading from an LL situation to an L2 environment, a very important issue to consider is how the fast teacher should introduce new what strategies. The rate depends mostly on whether the student appear to identifying strategies easily and articulating strategies used as they read. Another factor to consider is how much information about strategic reading should be what explained rather than what elicited. When students are already proficient in reading in their language one, they are often immediately able to relate what we are doing with the strategies in English to their reading behavior in language one. This would not be the case with younger students who may need more direct explanation about the meaning and the value of strategies. Also, the results of using this method is to date have been very positive. In class, all the students are able to read and think aloud, articulating strategy use as they go. They can identify strategies that other readers have used, as well as come up with the convincing reasons why these strategies are important. When students fill out charts describing the reading they do outside of class, they identify strategies they have used. So in class, students have said that strategy training helps them to understand their reading process what better in both their language one and what a language two. So here we should know how can we teach this activity. For example, how can teach الباسج. So I'll encourage students or I'll make them to what to first of all I'll read it aloud and thinking aloud, then I'll make it to and explain the vocabulary as can as possible. Then I'll give them chance and I encourage them to read and think. How can they find out title or main ideas or secondary ideas? How can they relate between the meaning, how construct the meaning, and like that. So you should teach them all what related to what this activity we can say. And how can you teach this activity we can say. Now I have finished this lecture. Is it clear for you? Is the lecture clear for you?
Yes,
نعم
doctor,
دكتور
clear.
واضح.
Do you have any question? Do you have any question about this lecture? Any addition if you have? Any comment if you have? Yes, if you don't have, I'll read your name here. أبو الحسن صلاح.
نعم
أبو
دكتور.
الحسن أحمد ستار.
نعم دكتور.
إخلاص نعيم. الأمين محمد. الأمين.
نعم دكتور. نعم دكتور.
آية عادل. آية عادل.
Yes,
أيوب
دكتور.
زهير. آية موجودة. آية عادل.
Yes, yes,
أيوب شوي على صوتك. أيوب زهير. أيوب. باقر عودة. باقر عودة.
نعم دكتور.
باقر ليش ما تخلي صورتك؟ ها باقر
نعم دكتور.
ليش ما تخلي صورتك؟ مو
نعم
بلغنا ايش قد
دكتور.
صار ايش قد صار لنا نبلغ؟ فبالنسبة لك وبالنسبة لبقية الطلاب اللي ما مخلين صورهم، هذا تبليغ لكم. خاف بعد يقول ما حد بلغنا وما حد نبهنا. فتخلوا خلوا صوركم حالكم حال زملائكم، لان هاي التأكيدات جاي تيجي عليها. لان انت جاي نتعامل ويا طالب، انا البارحة استبعدت الطالب لان ما مخلي صورته، صورته طالب غريب. فاحنا حتى نكون بالسيف سايد. هاي معلومات خاصة بكم، هوية تعريفية لكم. تقى أحمد. أيوب زهير موجود.
نعم
يس.
دكتور.
أيوب زهير موجود. أيوب.
نعم دكتور. نعم.
يس. جليل غازي. جليل.
نعم دكتور.
حسين سلمان.
نعم
حسين
دكتور
سلمان.
موجود.
حوراء عدنان. حوراء.
دكتور. نعم
يس
دكتور.
دكتور
يس
العفو،
رانيا
بس
محمد.
صحتي باسمي.
نعم.
صحتي باسمي تقى أحمد.
اي نعم.
إي موجودة دكتور.
بعد وين كنتي؟
فتحت مايك بس احتمال ما سمعت. العفو.
ريتاج.
نعم أستاذ.
ريتاج.
نعم أستاذ موجودة.
رملة كاسب.
نعم دكتور.
زهراء جبار. زهراء. زهراء سليم. زهراء سليم.
نعم دكتور. نعم دكتور.
يس زهراء علي. زهراء علي.
يس دكتور.
يس زهراء محمد. زهراء العفو زينب محمد. زينب محمد.
نعم دكتور. نعم دكتور.
يس سجاد حسين.
نعم
سجاد
دكتور.
حسين. يس سجاد صادق.
نعم دكتور. نعم
سجاد
دكتور.
صادق. سجا رياض.
نعم
سجا رياض.
دكتور.
يس
نعم
علي
دكتور.
عبد الرضا. علي عبد الرضا. علي عزيز.
يس.
يس
سوري
علي.
دكتور.
يس
عبد
علي
الرضا.
كاظم. اوكي علي كاظم.
نعم.
علي كاظم موجود.
نعم دكتور.
يس فاطمة الزهراء.
يس
فاطمة
دكتور.
الزهراء. فاطمة جمعة. فاطمة علي. فاطمة
يس
علي
دكتور.
مجيد.
يس دكتور.
كرار محمد.
يس.
يس ماجد غانم.
نعم دكتور.
ماجد. يس
نعم
محمد
دكتور.
جواد. اوكي محمد جواد.
نعم دكتور.
محمد عصام.
نعم موجود. موجود.
مرتضى غازي. اوكي
نعم
مرتضى
دكتور.
غازي.
نعم.
مرتضى محمد.
نعم دكتور.
مروان محسن. مروان. مروة علي.
نعم.
مروة.
نعم دكتور. نعم دكتور.
يس مريم رحيم. مريم.
نعم دكتور.
مريم عبد المطلب. مريم عبد المطلب. منتظر عماد. منتظر.
نعم.
مؤمل جاسم. مؤمل جاسم. نور الهدى كريم. نور الهدى كريم. نور عبد الكريم. نور العفو نور محمد صيهود.
نعم دكتور.
يس هاجر سرحان. هاجر سرحان. يوسف أحمد.
يس دكتور.
يس أحمد هليل. أحمد هليل. فاطمة علي. فاطمة علي. ومهيمن عماد. ومهيمن عماد. أكو أحد ما صحت باسمه أو ما سمع اسمه؟
نعم دكتور. رانيا محمد.
يس وين كنت رانيا؟
أستاذ لين صار تضارب بالأسماء ويا تقى حكيت فما قدرت أحكي.
بعد منو ما صحت باسمه أو
العفو
ما
العفو
سمع
دكتور
اسمه؟
حسين سلمان.
يس وين كنت حسين؟
أستاذ صار مشكلة بالصوت.
لما دائما نصير مشكلة عندك حاول تخرج وبعدين تدخل. حسين. حسين. بعد منو؟ امتحانكم راح يكون يوم يوم 20. يوم 20/1. الأسبوع القادم هي عطلة، فاللي بعده ناخذ محاضرة ونحدد امتحان بعده. فراح يكون امتحانكم يوم 20/1. اوف كورس يعني الامتحان راح يكون الساعة 1 تمتحنون كلكم، لأن وضحنا سابقا شنو الأسباب. والمادة راح نحددها مو الأسبوع القادم اللي بعده، يعني قبل الامتحان بأسبوع. فثبت يومكم يعني بعد 3 أسابيع، حتى لا يقول واحد مثل وما عندنا وقت يعني بعده، حتى لا يقول واحد مثل ما ندري او ما لحقنا او عندنا فلان شيء او عندنا غير امتحان، فحدده قبل وقت طويل حتى الطالب يهيئ نفسه ويكون مستعد. فهذا امتحانكم ان شاء الله راح يكون يوم 20/1. بعد عندكم شيء ولا حد يخرج اثناء ما احكي اسجله غائب، هاي بعد السياسة اللي اتبعتها. لأن ما يصير تغادر والتدريس بعده موجود، مثل إذا موجود بالحضوري، يعني إذا التدريس خلص مثلا بالقاعة وبعده ما طلع يصير تطلع. فعندكم بعد شيء، عندكم سؤال، عندكم إضافة؟ do you have any question, any comment, any addition, anything you want to add, to ask if you have any question؟ وأنا المحاضرة جاي أنزلها أسبوعيا، يعني هي من الكتاب أجيبها نفسها أنزلها، بس جاي أفصلها يعني. مثل اليوم شنو أخذنا أنزلها. المحاضرة شلون درسناها موجود التسجيل، كل محاضرة كل محاضرة موجود البي دي اف وموجود التسجيل مالتها. وهذا اللي حبيت انه انا انوهكم عليه. Yes, thank you for your listening, for your attending. Good luck and you can leave. Thank you for you. And happy new year for you. الطلاب اللي ما عنده شيء يقدر يغادر.